studio. I'm Diane Williams.
And I'm Chuck Potter.
Tonight we're going to talk about custom-made stretcher bars. When I was in college, you couldn't readily go to an art store and buy pre-constructed stretcher bars. So I went to class and the teacher said, come back tomorrow with a 3-foot by 4-foot stretcher bar at the wood shops down the hall. Well, we all got together in the wood shop and figured out how to make stretcher bars. Throughout the years, I've talked to a lot of people who have helped me to improve my stretcher bars. And eventually, Chuck and I have come up with a stretcher bar system that's a wonderful custom-built stretcher bar. So, yeah. Now, some of the advantages, what are some of the advantages of having custom stretcher bars?
Well, some of the better advantages is you have control over the quality. Most of the time when you get a store-bought one, they're put together with staples and glue, and you know the canvas kind of holds the structure together. These, when you hand make them, we countersink screws. You can actually deconstruct them, and literally, I've put them in tubes and shipped them to Wyoming, custom sizes for other artists.
Yeah, the way that we make them is we don't use glue at all. We just use screws so they can actually be deconstructed. And then, like Chuck said, you can ship them in tubes. We use the tubes that they use to pour concrete. So you can get a smaller one that fits into the bigger tube, roll your canvas on the smaller tube, slide it into the bigger tube, and then take the sticks and put it in the center.
Correct.
And you can ship that a lot more easily than you can ship, say, a 6-foot by 7-foot stretcher bar.
Correct.
So one of the other advantages, of course, is you can control the size. You can do custom sizes, which I like. I tend to like vertical, long and narrow stretcher bars, and I could have those made, but they're very expensive, and it's just not the quality that I'm used to. So we have gone through the whole process of milling the wood, and then we're going to show you how the milled wood is put together to create a stretcher bar and how to stretch the canvas.
We have poplar. What Diane and I we like to really make some quality stretcher bars. So we've tried wood in the past, and you know, the kind you buy at Home Depot, your standard fir, and the way they mill it, we get crazy results. So we moved to hardwoods, I don't know, probably about 10, 15 years ago. I'm losing track, but the nice thing about hardwood, and this is poplar, and this is poplar plank. This is a 2-inch thick by, could be 9 to 12 inches wide board. They usually come in lengths of 10 foot, sometimes 8, and I have a good friend in town who joins the one side, so I have a real nice, perfect edge. And we work off that edge, and we just cut these about 1.5 inches thick. And then we run them through, and then we create, this is the basic jig of the stretcher. You can kind of get an idea. There's a chamfered edge. There's a straight 2-inch back to wrap around the side. There's a 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch notch out that comes under the chamfered edge, and that allows you to put in your corner supports. So when you get the bars assembled, you can put in some corner supports and also some lateral supports like this to make a very strong, cohesive bar that lays completely flat to the surface on a wall when you put it up, so nothing sticks out. So this gives a chance for the painting to sit really nice on a wall. They're very strong, they're very sturdy, and they're really nice to pull a canvas over because the canvas only touches the leading edge, and then we staple it, of course, back here on the bottom. So you stretch and you pull over this way, you staple to the back here, and you have this beautiful clean edge, nice and straight, and that's the only point that canvas touches. So you can see that when you're painting near the edge, you don't get these shadow lines with a lot of the square type stretchers that do little roundovers, that can happen. Nice clean edge.
All right, well, let's show them how it's done.
Okay, be prepared for some noise.
So we have 30 sticks that are cut into 1.5 by 2 inch size. Now we've chamfered the edge 25 degrees. So you can see the chamfer here, 2 inches here. So the side, this will be the side of our stretcher bar, and this will be where the canvas rests on this point. Now we're going to cut a 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch notch here, and then the sticks will be ready to assemble. Okay, now we're going to select the wood that we've already milled for the stretcher bars that we want to make. And we're trying to determine if the wood is straight enough to use the entire piece or if we're going to have to cut some of the stretcher bar off.
So we've got basically, we have two sets of sizes here. We have 5.5, which is 65 inches, 4.5, which is 54 inches. And Diane wants to build some 24 by either 60 or 65. Well, if we've got to do 65 or 63, we really have to find, these pieces have to yield, almost the whole entire thing. Wood is wood, even hardwood. And you can see if you look at this edge, there's a little bit of a curve up here.
How do you measure whether or not the stick is straight?
Well, an easy way is I've got this nice counter right behind me, and what I do is I do two things. I take the leading edge where the canvas is going to come over, and I can put it on this thing, and you can see there's a bit of a small gap here underneath. I don't know if the camera's picking that up.
Is that
the bow.
Is that too much of a bow to use?
It's for a long panel, I would say yes. It is a little long.
You want it to lie completely flat, and we have a bit of a gap right there.
There's a little bit of a gap. It actually runs from about here all the way to here.
Yeah. So the wood is bowing, and we're not going to be able to use the full length of that piece of wood.
Then I have to check the wall side. What I found out over time is that, even though you've got a leading edge that may be really nice and straight, if the wall mimics the same bow, and you put that piece with a straight piece in the 4 pieces that you put together, it can create warps. And when you hang it on the wall, you'll get these little bounce outs. So that's another thing I have to check. One side might be good. Now, the back side is actually a little better, and we have a little bit more tolerance on the back side.
I still see a gap.
There's a little bit of a gap, but on the back side, we can probably take a gap up to about 1/8 of an inch. and it'll be okay hanging on a wall.
Okay.
But on the leading edge, we have to be a little bit more precise.
And the leading edge, you're talking about the edge that the canvas will
the top
wrap
of the canvas
around.
where it pulls over, because you'll see every flaw on that side. So we can save this piece still. We'll have to use it, and I'll have to cut more of that piece off and find where it bows. And I might.
So if I want my stretchers to be 60 inches long by 24 inches wide, we could probably get two 24-inch pieces out of that flawed piece of wood.
Or I could get a 4-foot piece out of it, or maybe even a 5-foot piece out of it, depending on it. I may be able to squeeze a 5-foot out of that one, but I can't get a 63-inch, you know? But more than likely, I'm only going to get a 4-foot section, and then I'll get a smaller section, and that's what a lot of these leftover pieces are. You know, I cut them into smaller sections, then they're okay on their own, and I can put smaller bars together.
So the wood selection process for what we're going to do for our stretcher bars is actually quite tedious.
Yes. And you can see this piece here. This is a really fairly straight piece.
Good.
You know, if you get a little bit of a 1/16 of an inch gap there, or a 32nd inch of a gap, that's fine. That's the leading edge. And now we look at the wall side or the back edge. And you can see I got just a hair of a gap up here. But since we may be only doing 63 inches and these are 65 to 66 inches, I'll be knocking some of that part off. But I'll be looking for that. And generally, when I see something like that, the best thing for me to do is to mark it. So I'll put a little mark there, so when I go to cut these pieces, I can slide it one way or the other and get the straightest piece I possibly can.
So the goal with what we milled the other day is to get 3 stretcher bars that are 63 inches by 24 inches and 4 stretcher bars that are 4 feet by 5 feet. So that's the goal. Let's see how close we can come. Okay, so we're going to make 45-degree cuts. And the cuts always go towards the center of the stretcher bar.
Right. So we have the chamfered edge right now here in the saw. I'll pull this piece out. So what we have is we have the 2-inch side up against the fence, and we're going to be cutting in on the chamfered side, the 25-degree angle that comes down. And that's how you put all frames together. So I know this piece is good, and, you know, to get the best cut, I wanted to touch on that fence there. I've set my position to 45. As you can see here, there's a 4 and a 5. And this is the little piece that comes off.
Okay.
And we just repeat this process over and over and over again.
Okay, now you're adjusting your saw to make the angle on the other side.
That's correct. We're going to flip it over, and now we have to actually do some measuring. The first time I didn't have to do any measuring because we were just setting up the first edge. But now I have to cut to fit. So this is where it has to be precise.
And what is that little device that you're holding?
Well, this is your little extra spinning hand. This allows you to slide very easily the piece of wood back and forth, and it adjusts so you can level it with this, and it allows me to slide this back and forth really easy and safe. Keeps the wood up so there's nothing going on where I'm cutting. So always have a pencil. Now, another thing is you have to measure from the long end of the cut. You don't measure from the short end, because your length, your overall length, your stretcher is going to come to this edge here. So you just slide your tape up, and we wanted what, 63?
Yes.
Okay. Now you can see right here, very little waste on this wood. See where my mark is?
Mm-hmm.
So I had maybe an inch on that side, in a couple inches here, a few inches on this side. And I had made a mark here originally on this side because I noted when I put it up that this little side was dipping up a little bit. So I favored that edge. Now when I cut that bad piece of wood goes away. And we have the straightest possible, we call them sticks. You'll hear us say that. Now another thing that I like to do is I like to mark and put 63 on that. And you know the old rule, measure twice, cut once. Because once I cut this baby, that's it. Yep, 63. We're looking good. Now, this side of the saw, we have to be careful. You know, because I have to put my hand here, and I have to line my blade up here to cut on the edge. Now, there's laser ones available and all that, but I find the laser ones are not very helpful.
The wood is cut. You're assembling the stretcher bars by putting them in the corner clamps.
Right. We're going to set them up in these corner clamps and get them nice and square. Then we can set up our, drill our holes to put the corners in. And what I'm doing now is I'm just loosely fitting them in the clamps because wood has grain, it has tendencies to bend and move. So what you want to do is ease them into the corners. And what this does is it minimizes the stress. If I straighten one corner and I keep the other corners a little crooked while I'm going around the process, what it does is I can warp the wood. So now I just want to just kind of dial it in. So now it's sitting pretty and it looks relatively square. But then I'm going to come back, loosen each, and then I'm going to fine tune the corners. So that way I'm not putting any real stress on them. I'm just making sure everything's nice and square in the wood. I just kind of ease it this way into its final position.
I notice you have the miter cut edge, the chamfered edge up on top.
That's correct. Yeah, we want a nice flat surface when we put this down. But as soon as we set the screws in these corners, then we're going to flip it. And it'll be the other way, and that's kind of fun. So right now I've got just a standard 18-volt drill, and I've got what they call a countersink. What a countersink does is it has a leading screw set up with a drill bit, and then it has a wider part that cuts for the head of the screw to sit into. And this thing is, these screws are tapered, and this thing will set up a tapered hole for this head to sit in so it'll be flush to the surface. I've got the corners in, so I can loosen my clamps, and I'm going to roll them over, and I'm going to put them in the clamps upside down, and that'll give me a little bit of a nice raised surface to work and put the supports in. Basically, we want to divide it into 3, which is 21, and I always measure from the same side. So 21, I'm going to put a support. I'm going to put a support at 42. What that does is it gives us basically 3 sections 21 inch, and when you put the support in, it looks nice and even. Plus it gives, a nice even structure.
And now it's time to stretch the canvas. So what you want to think about with your canvas is you want to have enough room that you can fold it over and staple it on the back. You don't want to run short. You do not want to staple it on the side. The rule is about 6 inches on each side, and you can get by with a little less than that. I eyeball it. I'm not going to measure. I've stretched about 1 billion of these. So I'll just kind of get it started and rip it. So what you want to do is you want to take the chamfered edge, the mitered edge, this goes down. Then center your canvas, making sure that you have enough that you can pull up on all edges, and we've got plenty. What you're going to need is a stapler. I like this Power Shot stapler, works pretty good. And some canvas pullers, canvas pliers. The way this is done is you want to staple it like a cross. Starting from the center, you put a couple of staples in each side on the center, and then on the ends. Couple there, couple there. Then you move outward as you go around, and then I'll show you about how to do the corners. Okay, so I've got my Power Shot stapler. I like this stapler, and I'm going to start in the center, so I fold it up. I don't need the canvas pliers for this first couple of staples. Oh, nice. Brand new stapler, working well. Now, some people think the corners are the hardest thing to do, and I'm going to talk a little about the corners. You have to decide when you fold your corners over, you're going to get a little bulk where the corner is. And you have to decide if you want that bulk on the top or the side. I want mine on the top. The reason being, if I decide to put these together to make a diptych or a triptych, I am not going to want a little lump that's going to make a gap in between the paintings. So what you want to do on the side that you want to be the clean side, you take the staples all the way to the edge. Again, I can't use the canvas pliers where I have the support pieces, so I'm just stretching with my hand. Okay, that's good. Have it all the way to the edge. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this from the corner where it's mitered in 45 degrees, as if we're following the miter cut in 45 degrees. I'm going to take this inside flap, I'm going to pull it up, but I don't want it to look like that. I want to finesse it so that the crease is exactly on the corner. And that way I'm going to get a beautifully stretched corner. And just tack it down. Okay, from start to finish, from plank to stretched canvas, you've seen the whole process. This is what our finished product. It sounds like a drum, it's really nice. A lot of times when you stretch it, you don't feel it's quite tight enough, or there's an area that's a little loose. Or after you've been working on the canvas for a while, it can loosen up. But I have a trick for that. Turn it over to the back side. Take a squirt bottle with water. It actually works a little faster if the water is warm. This is cold. A lot of times the corners will be your area. And go ahead and just squirt it. And this will tighten that canvas right up. Or sometimes on the side you'll see a little puckering that you might not like. You can go ahead and spray that and it's going to tighten right up. That's it. It's ready for the gesso, and that's a whole nother story. Okay, so on to building stretcher bars tonight. We'll talk to you with our next video, and we're going to do in virtual open studios. So stay tuned for that. If you like the content of our videos, please subscribe, and please follow us on Instagram and our website. Mine is DianeWilliamsArt.net.
And ChuckPotterArt.net.
All right,
Great. Have a
stay
good
safe.
evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.